Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some of the big astrology of February 2026. This month, there's a lot of charge building. There's a lot happening, and especially in that third week. So in today's episode, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Saturn Neptune conjunction and briefly touch on some of the other pieces coming up, but I'll have other videos going deeper into some of the kind of day-to-day astrology. But we have a really poignant, once in a lifetime, I mean, literally, this has not happened. Neptune conjunct Saturn, or Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees Aries in 9,000 years is when they believe it happened last. So like 7,000 BC. So this is a really, really, really striking moment in time. And let's get into it. Let's talk about what this even means, what the different energies are offering us, what might come up, how we can work with this individually, what we can expect to feel socially, globally. And there's a lot here, and I'm excited to go deeper with all of you. And so, as always, this is AstroTherapy. I am Danielle Knapp. I am a certified astrologer and also a psychotherapist. And so in this space, we like to work with the archetypes, symbolism, and energies of the planets and bring that into the individual internal space so that we can know ourselves on a deeper level and really come from a conscious, authentic place as we move about in this world. So if this content has felt supportive, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Any action you take towards this channel helps it get some movement. And I appreciate you being here and spending your time. So February 2026 is full of all sorts of activity astrologically. And some of that third week really stands out. We have some big stuff. We had the Leo new moon that happened on the 1st of the month. And we also, at the end of January, we had Neptune moving into Aries. So you may have felt a little bit of that energy shift already starting. And then on the 4th, we have Uranus going direct at 27 degrees Taurus. So they expect the unexpected, the genius planet, the breaking down of old structures in service of the new thing, is sliding backwards, stopping at 27 degrees Taurus and coming back forward. And this, just for your dates, if you want to look back, one of my favorite ways to use astrology is to look back at my calendar or even my photographs to see what was happening on these different dates. Uranus pre-shadow, so when Uranus was first traveling this territory from 27 degrees Taurus to 1 degree Gemini, this happened from May to September 2025. Then got to 1 degree Gemini, turned around, started scooting backwards, has been in retrograde motion since September, and now February 4th, scooted backwards, well, whichever way you're watching, I can't remember if this is mirrored, goes all the way back to 27 degrees Taurus, stops again, stations direct, and is going to be in that post shadow, that third time traveling that same area on the chart until May 19th-ish, 2026. So we'll be traveling back, and Uranus will begin to pick up speed after a little while of kind of, he's a big planet. So when he makes that U-turn, it takes a minute for him to actually begin to start to move quickly on the chart. And of course, this is all just visual. The planets do not go backwards. Their orbits are oval shaped. It's just like if you're running on a track and someone's on the inner lane and someone is on the outer lane, there is a moment where it looks like the person on the outer lane from the person on the inner lane, it might look like they're going backwards, but really it's just a different size orbit. Okay, and so then we have, just kind of rattling through the overview of February, we have Mercury moving into Pisces on the 7th, followed by Venus on the 10th. And then we have Mercury joining the North Node. And if we have Mercury joining the North Node, we know Mercury is also opposing the South Node. So the mind, Mercury, will be coming into the collective North Node, which is where we are all headed as a group. So we might have new perspective or ideas on the visions of where we are headed, which is very much in congruence with the Saturn Neptune conjunction we're going to discuss later. And so because this is happening with Mercury, right behind him comes Venus, the heart space. She will then also be joining the North Node on that powerhouse day of the 17th. So on the 17th, we have our new moon in Aquarius at 28 degrees. which is going to be our first solar eclipse, or an Aquarius eclipse. And then we have the Chinese New Year. We'll be starting the year of the fire horse. There's a lot of charge, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of power in this visual of going from the wood snake, you know, the earth, belly on the ground type of imagery, to a horse, a strong, fully charged fire horse, just running full open. And then we also have Venus conjunct the North Node that day, the heart space, in alignment with where the collective is headed, where we're stretching and growing. Okay, and then that's followed by the sun moving into Pisces right after that new moon on the 19th, and then we have Saturn conjunct Neptune on the 20th. Okay, so that's like a quick little, you know, overview of it. And now let's get into more of the Saturn and Neptune conjunction happening at 0 degrees Aries, because this is striking. So before we talk about the blending of these two archetypes, and then layering in the layer of the Aries zodiac script, let's talk about them individually. And we'll start with Neptune, who already moved into Aries on the 27th. So Neptune is the great spirit, right? There is this beautiful way that Neptune helps us move into a more swirly space in service of like true essence and truth behind illusion, if that makes sense. And, you know, it is important to understand Saturnian type concepts, because the outer planets all strategically work with the structures that Saturn puts in place. So Saturn is the last of the visible planets. And Saturn is all about rules, structure, safety, control, hierarchy, black and white thinking. There's just a lot of, it's very kind of like, can be limited in ways, but also really supportive for helping us feel safe ultimately, which Saturn is all about. That it is the father archetype. Saturn is, you know, teaches us through discipline, says no, stretches us, pushes us a little bit, makes us a little uncomfortable, but in service of our growth and development. So Saturn puts all these structures in place, and it's the last of the visible planets. And then we have the asteroid belt that starts where Chiron is located. And then we have Uranus, the first of the outer planets. And Uranus, the unexpected planet, the one who kind of comes in that kind of natural disaster type energy of like, you know, a hurricane moves through and just wipes everything out. Okay, the whole terrain is it's just leveled. And so what do we build from there? So, and Uranus is sudden, and it just comes on, and you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming. But now we must rebuild. What do we want to rebuild in this open space? So it's like Uranus comes in and sees all these structures that Saturn set up, and is like, we're going to break all that down, kind of a tower moment in Tarot. And then Neptune is the next outer planet who shows up and is like, nothing is true and everything is true. It is all it's all an illusion. It's all glamour. And is really trying to help us transcend some of this, these different false truths that Saturn can sometimes promote around hierarchy and authority, external authority especially. Again, in service of seeing higher truth is Neptune's goal. And then we have Pluto. You know, I know that astronomers say not a planet anymore, but as far as us astrologers are concerned, we absolutely are working with Pluto. Pluto, Hades, Lord of the Underworld, he shows up after Neptune and is like, are you ready to become the phoenix and to surrender to the burning and become ashes again so that you can be reborn? So the death and rebirth cycle, you know, power and control and obsession, you know, those kinds of things coming in with the Plutonian energy. So we're really focusing on this connection right now between Saturn and Neptune, and how they relate and what this looks like, because they, as you can already hear, there's kind of an opposing, polarizing type of energy. If Saturn's all about structure, black and white thinking, being responsible, dealing with authority, and then Neptune saying, that's fake. No one is an authority over you. You know, you are your self-authority, and kind of, it's an illusion. This is all of these illusions. It's all fake. Reality is fake. You are a soul, having this human experience. You're the avatar in the game of life kind of idea. You can see how there could be some conflict that comes up when these two come together. And so I'm trying to look real quick that, truth, that reality is an illusion. Oh, Neptune is also the ultimate creative force, because what it does is it like breaks everything down. It's like, what are we going to create? Like, anything is possible. That's the beautiful gift of Neptune, is this infinite possibility for reality. Because if reality isn't real, then we can do whatever we want to do, or we can create whatever we want to create. Whereas Saturn's going to be the realist, the dream crusher that comes in and is like, you want to do that? Do you have the money? Do you have the backing? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the credentials? All of these things. And Neptune's going to say, you don't need credentials. You'll find the money. Like, the space will appear to you if you trust. Like, there's just surrender to the process. And Neptune's also going to be much more flowy and able to move with like perceived failure, whereas Saturn and Saturn's rigidity can struggle with this idea of like things not working out or not following the plan or the strategy. Okay, so let's talk about when these two come together, what does happen? You're already getting a vibe for these two planets individually. And so, something else when we think about like the shadow side of Saturn is going to be overly controlling, right? Like so much rigidity that a little bit of pressure is just going to snap. Saturn also, black and white thinking, like, can be kind of closed-minded in a way as an attempt to keep things feeling under control and safe. And Neptune is really helping us to exist in ungrounded places, to feel safe, because we are always safe, even if the world is on fire and things are crumbling around us. The shadow side of Neptune, like if someone has a real Neptunian chart and they are struggling to work with that energy, it can show up as escapism, of like, a disregard for all reality. This is where drugs and alcohol and addiction can come in and try to help the individual with the goal to escape the harshness of reality, of that Saturnian reality, okay? And so how we handle the merging of these two planets is directly related to where we're at in our journey when it comes to the Saturnian energy. If we are more in that shadowy space with our Saturn energies, where we're very controlling or very dependent on the plans and the structures and rigid around the ways things go. If we're over idolizing authority, which idolization can be some Neptunian stuff, how are we in relationship to power and hierarchies? Are we in right relationship with our own power? How do we feel about authority and external sources of authority? Where are we at with that? Are we overly dependent on that in ways? All of this is going to absolutely impact how we work with this infusion of Neptunian energy into the Saturn script. So some of the ways that this can look like in a really supportive way, if we are, let's say we are kind of in a really grounded, mature place with the Saturn scripts, this is going to look like the ability to transcend some of the boundaries or rigidity that's in place that's not in service. This is also going to look like, this like a refinement process where we are learning about how we can really create and make real these dreams that we have, like how we can bring them into reality. Collectively, this is going to be a huge shift in the collective visions and dreams that we have, and then how we actually make that reality, because reality is also very Saturnian, in timing of things. You know, Saturn is Chronos, so the, you know, delays and stuff like that, you know, like divine timing and trusting that is has to do with Saturn, and then the divinity of that, Neptune. So some of the shadow things that can happen is, you know, this escaping responsibility. There is the over-idolization of authority, the godlike kind of idea of worshiping authority. Let's see, fearing a loss of control. That can be something that comes up when these guys come together. And then, you know, with the idolization of authority, there can be the undermining of all systems as well. And, you know, nothing is good or bad with astrology. It just is. And so it's always valuable to be aware of the light and shadow of all of these aspects, just to bring consciousness to it and maybe give you help you feel empowered in engaging with this, or help you make sense of what we're witnessing all around us. Guilt and reparation is also another expression of the merging of these two. And I do think that that is interesting when we think about guilt, and like the root of the word guilt is gild, which means to pay. And there's something about like consequences that is very Saturnian, of like, it's time to pay. So that's what it's like when they come together, okay? There's this merging, and Saturn often does teach us through lack. And so sometimes, you know, when we are looking at this could go this way or that way, when we're dealing with Saturn, it's often going to kind of, you know, learn the hard way type of experience that often comes up. And then we're talking about it being in Aries, the first zodiac of the zodiacal wheel. Aries script is very much like the Fool card in Tarot, if you mess with Tarot. It's like this, there's a bravery and a willingness to experience and embark from, not from like a mature place, but from more of this like, haven't had the experiences yet to even know what to be afraid of. So there's like a bravery, but it's not like an earned kind of courage, bravery yet. It's like, I'm, you know, courage, the root word core, from the heart, C-O-U-R. It's like the, you know, coming from the heart, which is lovely, right? It's like authenticity. Like the Aries script is very much guided by authenticity, but there often is a lack of maturity. I'm not talking about Aries sun signs, you know, or any of that. I'm just talking about the energy of the Aries script. And there, because it is the first, it's the screaming infant, it's the brand new, you know, right out the birth portal, first zodiac. So developmentally, it is the I am here, I have arrived. And the baby, the infant, does not yet know the things to be scared of. All it cares about is self. And like, I'm cold, so I'm screaming, you know, or I'm wet, I need to change. I'm hungry, feed me. It's very self-focused and really can struggle to accommodate or know the other, due to this kind of new experience of like, I have these needs that need to be met. And when we think about that, like there's also this real pioneering energy. You know, if you haven't been beat down by the world yet, the world is your oyster. You know, there's like, we can do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Anything is possible, which is very supported by that endless creative energy that comes from Neptune. But Saturn in Aries, for lack of a better word, is just pissed off. This is not Saturn's favorite place to be. Saturn is what we would say in fall in Aries. He is opposite Libra, where he is exalted, where he gets to be this level kind of balance, just kind of presence. In Aries, because of the self-focus, it's a lot more about this like taking responsibility for one's actions, is kind of how Saturn expresses in Aries. So, and like the consequences of the choices and actions that you're taking, especially like physical ones. Aries is like also part of the I am, is like, I am in this body. Like there's a physical component to that. cardinal fire. And, you know, in astrology, we call the 0 degree point the birth portal of the zodiac. And so that's why this is why everybody in the astrology spaces is so kind of buzzed up about this conjunction that's happening. I believe when it happened before, back in, you know, 7000 BC, it was like the birth of like agriculture or something like that. It was like something huge. And so these are big planets that don't move really fast. So it's not like we're going to go from this to this on this day and everything's going to be different. Excuse me. It has more of that like wave building, and the wave kind of crests and then falls away. So we might be feeling some of this building already, and we'll feel it kind of get more intense, and then something, you know, some things might start to fall into place, or something might happen, and then we begin to see the aftermath and kind of how that's going to play out after the kind of arc of the energy. So let's see, that's why I was really spending a lot of time on this for the February astrology, because even though this is February 20th, like we're in it. We've been in this. Like Neptune moving into Aries on the 27th of January really started this energy, and we're feeling it. So something else, let's see. Let me check my notes to see if I hit on, something that, you know, like, because I like to bring it into the individual, something that can come up with Aries and Saturn merging together at this, Saturn and Aries, Saturn and Neptune merging together in Aries can sometimes be like this caved in feeling psychologically, like you know, there's this like I can't cope kind of feeling that can come up. So that's something to be on the lookout for, because again, it's like the newness of everything, our favorite word nowadays, unprecedented experience of this time. And it's like, I don't have a coping skill for this, or an IFS therapy. It's like, I haven't developed a protector part or a managing part for this experience, because I haven't had it yet. And so now we're having it, and we're seeing the birth of some of these new parts of self. They're like, this is something I've never had to worry about before. This is something I've never had to track before. And now I am worried about it because I had that experience, or now I am tracking this as something that could happen to me again. And so that creates parts in our system, and depending on the intensity will depend on the split that can happen psychologically, to where these parts are really forward, really strong, really anxious, really burdened. Okay, so let's get into some more of the symbolism that comes up with this. So when we are thinking about, you know, Saturn kind of coming in, and I said he was pissed, but it's like he's charged in Aries, right? He's like, it's time, you know, to face the consequences of your actions, to sleep in the bed that you have made. So there is this, you know, in a lower shadowy expression like punishment, or I told you so kind of energy, or see what you've done, and like you need to feel guilt about this, versus learning opportunity. That the teacher is another archetype of Saturn. It's like, okay, the teacher is here. What is the lesson that we are here to learn? And, you know, are we being responsible? And part of responsibility is kind of taking that inventory of like, am I able to respond to what is happening? And if I am I in integrity with that? So, you know, again, this idea of like collectively our dreams and our visions are changing. Like things are different. And we got a preview of this, you know, before, when Neptune had scooted back, or was in Aries before he scooted back into Pisces back in March. He moved into Aries, so we got a flavor of that. But this conjunction with Saturn feels pretty poignant. And one of the other aspects that I always find interesting is the Sabian symbols. And so the Sabian symbol for 0 degrees Aries is a woman rising out of the water being met by a seal. And the seal is embracing her. If that resonates and it makes you think of something, follow that. Follow that for yourself. What it made me think about is the tale of the Selkie and the Selkie girl, which is a Scottish Celtic folklore about a shapeshifter who was a seal, but could also shift into a woman. And there was this idea that these Selkie women would come out of the ocean and they would sunbathe in their human bodies. And this man, and they would take off their seal skin. And this man had been watching them and decided that he wanted one for his wife. And so he stole her seal clothes. And there's different versions of this. If, he met her and they fell in love and then he stole the seal clothes, or he just entrapped her. And so she ends up having children, and she's always going to the coast. And there's this deep sense of longing, of missing this lost part of herself and this freedom. And some say, like in Clarissa Pinkola Estes' interpretation around this repression of the wild side, of the animal side, and the split. Eventually, one of her children discovers the sealskin and brings it to her, and she's able to put it back on and go back out into the ocean. And so when we think about some of the themes of this psychologically, this is going to be like a longing for freedom. And so think about where we're at collectively, or maybe personally in your own life, so within, so without, and see if any of these themes are resonating with you. So it's like loss of freedom, loss of personal identity through self-sacrifice, which is also a shadow side of Neptune, this kind of martyrism that can come up. It's also the shadow side of the Pisces script, which we are leaving and moving into Aries with Neptune and Saturn. So there might have been some lessons that Saturn taught you in the Pisces script around martyrism and self-sacrifice at the cost of yourself. And then, this idea of existing between two places. And this gets into even just the idea of a seal. Coastal creatures that live on the coastline exist between two realms. They're existing between the land and the sea. And we're in a transformative time here on this earth. And there is this kind of in-between place in which we are being asked to navigate right now. These uncharted waters of the old is crumbling. Things are changing. There is unrest. It's loud, it's messy, it's aggressive, there's wounding, there's fear, so much fear. And so like the old structures, those Saturnian structures, the hierarchies, the false gods, the leader, dependency on a leader to save you in some way, that's being, the feeder to the fire right now. Like we're in a pressure cooker around that. And so like there is this knowing like something's got to change. Things are changing, but what that is and how it looks on the other side is not available to us yet, which is also this merging of the Neptune and the Saturn. Saturn is the structures, they're falling away. And then Neptune is like, will not give you a clear vision. Any creative out there will tell you it's very much about the process of moving through the creativity and the creation process that leads you to the outcome versus you have a vision of the outcome and you zip through to get to that. Like there's so much that's the experience along the way. And so Neptune is like stepping into the fog, right? It's like trusting and taking the next step and then a little bit clears. But you still can't see the whole path. Then you take the next step and a little bit more clears. And you are required to move through the process to arrive at the outcome. And so there is this like, okay, something's coming that's different. What was is no longer working. That's for sure. I mean, astrology is not political in that way, but I'm pretty sure with the great divide of people right now, they can both agree that this is not working. We need big change. How we go about doing that might be a little different depending on which side of that we fall on. But there is this, within a polarization, there's always a common connecting part. And that is things need to change. It's not working. And so we have the Saturnian structures falling away, crumbling, leaving us in this kind of like, ungrounded, what can feel overwhelming. Part of Neptune is that overwhelm of like the illusion is falling, the glamour of the presentation, the false reality. We're looking like that's all dropping, and we're seeing the truth. We're seeing the mess. We're seeing that which has been veiled and concealed and kept from overt like consciousness is coming up right now in a really, really loud way. And if we can just hold ourselves, if we can really get into that idea of like fortifying ourselves, which is why I'm always harping on practices, but if we can fortify ourselves to move through this experience of everything breaking down in the ways that it needs to break down so that the new thing can be built. And of course, anytime things are breaking down, the most vulnerable of us are who are wounded. And so we have to take care of each other through this phase of our evolution here on Earth. And then trusting that we will continue to take the steps and the fog will continue to lift. But it really makes me think of the coastal creatures and how they have adapted to benefiting from both spaces. It's like being on the land is in service in this way, and being at sea is in service in this way, versus having to choose or not have the ability to traverse between the realms. And so something about that just really stood out to me, and I wanted to share it with you all. So if it feels resonant or helpful, take it. If not, toss it. But yeah, we're going through it. So as always, thank you so much for spending your time here with me. I will be back soon to talk about more of, the fire horse and things that are coming up with that. And there's a lot happening, but I really felt like the blaring, alarm, not alarm in a, like a danger way, but alarm in a like wake up way, is this Saturn Neptune conjunction that's happening February 20th. And so I'll leave you with that. And again, thank you for spending your time with me. I hope that this is helpful and supportive as we continue to journey through. As a reminder, if you would like to work together, go deeper. If you have anything happening at 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, so 0 degrees Aries, 0 degrees Cancer, 0 degrees Libra, 0 degrees Capricorn, this is hitting you personally, very personally. It's giving you more of a oomph. All of these themes that we're talking about, because you're going to be involved in squares or in opposition. And so, and again, of course, as always, if you have no idea what any of that means, but you want to know, book a birth chart reading with me at danielleknapp.com. If you are in the state of Texas and interested in working together therapeutically, I occasionally have openings, so let me know, send me a note. My website for therapy is www.startwithintherapy.com. And yeah, we're gonna figure this all out. We're all moving through it. This is a year of great change, and with great change often comes a lot of destabilization, so that the new things can come in. We have to let the things that are not working crumble. And so, leave a comment. Let me know where you're at. But yeah, that's all I got for you, and I'll be wishing you lots of ease. Until next time.